Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Are You Ready Wrestling podcast here on Newport City Radio. We are joining you once again to dive deeper into wrestling, if that is at all possible. There's so much wrestling. I've watched so much over the past 7 days, and a man sat alongside me who has done exactly the same. Curtis.
Hello.
We always say it, but there's so much wrestling. We've had, since we last spoke to the people, we've had AEW Double or Nothing, we've had Raw, NXT, Dynamite, SmackDown. There's just so much going on at the moment.
There is indeed.
There always is so much going on at the moment, but yeah. Should we kick off with an announcement?
I think we should.
I think we should. As we mentioned last week on the podcast, if you've listened, available now wherever you get your podcasts, you would know that on the 15th of June, just over 2 weeks' time, a certain wrestling company are hosting an event in Glasgow, or Glasgow,
as Paul Levesque likes to say.
Glasgow. Have you ever been to Glasgow?
No.
Would you like to go to Glasgow?
Well, I would have liked to go to Clash of the Castle, and I know you would have as well, but...
Well, technically, I could go. I could ditch you and Adam.
But you're not, because...
I could.
Because we have an announcement.
We do have an announcement.
WWE, obviously, having Clash of the Castle.
They're having a major UK show, and we're also having a major wrestling show.
Yes.
Here on Newport City Radio on Saturday, the 15th of June. Me, Curtis, and Adam, who joined us for the first... Two episodes reviewing WrestleMania, and he'll be with us again next week.
I believe he is. I believe he will be joining us for next week for Sunday's Clash of the Castle preview.
Curtis and Adam will be with us. We will be giving our live reactions, our live thoughts, and a live podcast.
Yeah.
I think we could pretty much call it, which is, yeah, first time anything like this has ever happened in a good while on Newport City Radio.
Yeah.
So I'm just thrilled that I get to do it alongside two people who share the same love for professional wrestling as I do.
Indeed.
Not much has been announced so far for Clash at the Castle. I think one match since we last spoke to the people, and that's Piper Niven against Bayley, which is kind of expected after SmackDown in Saudi Arabia last week.
It looks like we could be getting another match, though.
Could be.
Third match?
Yes. Yes, on Friday night. SmackDown week just gone on I believe it was the 31st of May.
Yeah.
Or the 1st of June over here, because of the way the time zones...
Lovely 1 a.m.
work. AJ Styles was hinting towards retiring. He said to Nick Aldis at the back, if he has to wait his time for another title shot, which he hasn't got, then you may as well just retire. And he came to the ring. We've got on our notes, Mark Henry 2.0.
Yeah.
Mark Henry did exactly the same thing to John Cena, I believe, when John Cena was the champion, in terms of announced that he was going to retire. He was in the ring in a suit and started getting emotional and saying he's off to spend time with his family and things like that. And then Cena comes out and kind of gives him appreciation and raises his hand to the four sides of the ring. And then Mark Henry hits him with the world's powerful slam, or whatever his finishing move. Was it the world's strongest slam? The world's strongest slam to John Cena even. And exactly the same happened on SmackDown with AJ Styles giving Cody a phenomenal forearm off the steel steps.
Wasn't it a Styles Clash?
Yes. It was a Styles Clash. See, there's too much wrestling. I haven't been able to get much sleep. Anyway, that will be, as we said, on the 15th of June here live on Newport City Radio. An actual live radio show rather than a podcast. But I'm sure we'll be back the next day to talk even more
Professional wrestling.
pro wrestling. Anyway, we mentioned last week that the other side of pro wrestling was having a major event, Double or Nothing, AEW's yearly Vegas extravaganza. 5 years, I believe it was 5 years since AEW started. Was it after seeing the pay-per-view and things around it, Curtis, did they go double or did they go for nothing?
Bit of both, but it was I didn't really watch too much of it, but I watched some of it. I did see a certain return.
Yes. Juice Robinson's back with Bullet Club Gold. Juice Robinson returned.
Yeah. I don't know MJF returned.
You do know MJF returned. We were watching his return promo a little bit earlier, just before we came on air. MJF, who we haven't seen since he lost his world title to Samoa Joe at World's End at the back end of 2023. And then after he lost his world title, it was revealed who the Devil is, in which was one of the worst storylines that AEW has ever done. And MJF in this return kind of buried that story.
Yeah.
Said that he doesn't mask stuff for cowards. And yeah, are you pleased to see the man who is better than you and you know it back?
Yeah. He's one of AEW's top superstars. Brings a lot to the company with what they have. As Tony Khan loves to say, they've got the best wrestlers. Okay. I'll give you MJF. He's a pretty good wrestler. Well, very good wrestler, in fact. But yeah, it was the crowd reaction for when he come back was really good. Then when towards the end of his promo, he mentioned a certain someone.
He did.
Do you know who I'm on about?
No.
Ex-WWE owner.
Oh, yes.
Vince McMahon.
Yes. He said he doesn't need a New Japan or Vince McMahon to make MJF because
MJF made MJF.
MJF made MJF, which very, very, very good line.
Yeah.
MJF is probably the best talker at the moment in professional wrestling. As he says himself, he's a generational talent. He can do it all. He can do it in the ring, on the mic. And yeah, he's one of my personal favourite professional wrestlers out there at the moment. And he's right, though, because MJF, arguably one of the biggest stars, reported that he's signed up to a multi-million-dollar contract per year, or multi-million-dollar per year contract in AEW, which I don't see many, or it being, apart from maybe the EVPs, maybe Will Ospreay.
Yeah.
I can't see many who have come through that independent circuit like so many have in AEW and going on to be a bigger star than what MJF has become in just over 5 years.
Yeah.
Is he better than you?
Probably.
And do you know it?
I don't know it because he'll have to prove it.
Do you... Now, he spoke quite openly about the bidding war of 24, that his contract is up on the 1st of January this year. Did you ever see a possibility of him going to WWE?
A little bit, yeah. I think if WWE wanted him, they would have offered him very big money.
Oh, yeah.
They would have offered him thing, but I would have liked to see him in WWE because, as you've said, he's one of the best on the mic in professional wrestling at the moment. He would have brought a lot to WWE, especially with promoting it and stuff, but AEW wasn't going to let him go. They would have tried their absolute hardest to keep him, just because he brings in some attention that they definitely need if they want to keep up with WWE. But it's another thing. Two rival companies. Also, we had Jade Cargill leave AEW to go to WWE. There's going to be so many wrestlers. Like, look at Adam Copeland. He's left WWE, was one of WWE's best wrestlers of all time. And he's now left and gone to AEW. It's just, wrestling's crazy sometimes.
It is, and I'm sure as time goes on, we'll see more of that. As you say, Edge went from being Edge to now being Adam Copeland. Going the other way, Jade Cargill. Ethan Page, we'll come on to him when we talk about this week's NXT, one of the best episodes of NXT that I've seen
in a good while.
What do you think of MJF's tattoo? We've seen some pretty out there tattoos in wrestling. You look at Cody Rhodes and his neck tattoo and things like that. What do you think of MJF having... Well, the message is core bet on yourself, which he's done. You know, don't get me wrong. But then also having a poker chip with AEW tattooed
to your leg
around it. I suppose when he wrestles and he has when he has his wrestling gear on, you won't see it, I assume.
But then what happens when he's on holiday and stuff? He's not going to be wearing like joggers, is he? He's going to be wearing like shorts and stuff, so people are just going to see it. And what happens if he ever wants to go to WWE? He's going to have AEW on the back of his leg. He's going to have to get that lasered off. Yeah,
but that would play into so much.
Why would you have AEW though? Why would you have AEW tattooed?
Well, I mean, that's the company that's made him a star. AEW is the company that when he joined 5 years ago, he was not an outsider, but he was not that
well known.
Yeah, not that well known in professional wrestling. And now you look today in terms of he had a year-long title reign with a world title, one of the biggest paid stars in wrestling. He was in a Hollywood movie last year, The Iron Claw. He wasn't in it for very long, I don't think, but he was definitely in it.
Oh, don't get me wrong, AEW have built him to be one of the biggest stars at the moment in professional wrestling. Without a doubt. But I don't agree with having wrestling companies tattooed on your leg or tattooed anywhere on your body, especially in the sport that it is. Like, there's chances that you're going to go to and from different companies and stuff. I mean, he's decided to do it. It's his choice, but
yeah.
Each to their own. But I personally wouldn't do it.
You mentioned Adam Copeland earlier, / Edge.
Yeah, I did.
50-year-old Edge in a barbed wire steel cage match.
That's asking for trouble.
It was asking for trouble, and trouble answered.
Indeed. With a broken tibia, I believe?
Yes.
He's out for 4 to 6 months now.
You've seen the spot.
Yeah, I've seen the spot.
Don't talk us through it.
Well, Adam Copeland, climbed up the steel cage with a table with the wrestler that he was wrestling with. Who was he wrestling? I forgot who was wrestling.
Malachi Black.
That's the one. And then he climbed up to the top of the steel cage. I'm guessing he was going to do some elbow drop or something. He was going to do, I don't know what he was going to do, but he botched it and just jumped off and dropped and landed on his 2 legs. Especially if you're jumping from 15 to 20 feet in the air, landing on a metal frame and wood. That's causing for trouble, especially with someone like Edge. It's not as if it was a young wrestler, but someone like Adam Copeland, who's the age of 50, who's near enough close to retirement.
Yeah, because he wrapped Malachi Black up in barbed wire on the table.
Yeah.
So not only did he fall from a 50-foot cage, he also fell onto table and barbed wire and obviously his opponent.
Which is going to... That in itself, doing it's like when you see people do frog splashes and stuff. That can go horribly wrong. And if you do... any move, really, that requires you to jump off a certain height. One wrong landing, do anything, and as we've seen, he broke his leg.
He did indeed.
Which will be out for 4 to 6 months now.
He'll be out for... Because when he was younger with Christian in a tag team, say in his 20s, and mid-2000s against like the Hardys and
Yeah.
the Dudley Boys and people like that. That's kind of what they were known for.
Yeah.
Is that, a bit more of an extreme style of...
Kind of like the Attitude Era type thing. Like with the violence.
That is a banned word on this podcast, Curtis. You know this.
I'm allowed to say it. Adam is not allowed to say it because he repeatedly said it multiple times on both of the episodes of the WrestleMania review. I am allowed to say it, as I don't say it very often, and that's the first time I've said it on this podcast. But that's what it kind of resembled, in a sense, like
because it was
crazy
kind
move
of,
shots and stuff like that.
It was more the ruthless aggression.
Yeah,
era where they were kind of in, as I say, great rivalries with the Hardys, the Dudley Boys, and people like that. So he's out for a couple of months. Someone who also might be out for a couple of months, not through injury, but through having time off, plus having no actual contract with any major wrestling company. I'm, of course, talking about the man, big-time Becky Lynch. According to Fightful Select, her contract was up as of midnight yesterday. She's yet to re-sign with anyone. She's told WWE sources she's having time off.
Yeah, I've seen something on Cultaholic Wrestling online that her time off is being classed as extended long break from professional wrestling. It's not retirement, but it's a good while. I mean, we kind of all knew that her break was going to happen after WrestleMania, but then obviously, as we said on previous podcasts, Rhea Ripley vacated the title. They brought her back just so she could win the title. She obviously then lost to Liv, had the rematch, lost again, which that was her last match in WWE. Who knows what could happen, but I definitely think she's going to re-sign. Not now, but in a good few months I think she's going to come back.
Because throughout anything in wrestling, especially when someone's contract is up and someone with a bigger name like Becky Lynch, I've seen so many people on social media say about a run in AEW, maybe an appearance here or there, or...
Do you think she's going to go to AEW? With how long she's been in WWE?
Yes, there's that. But you said about Edge, he seemed like he was going to be there for the rest of his career.
I thought he was going to
rest of his life. Exactly. And then he's gone over. The thing that AEW have in their favour is Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks, or the former Sasha Banks, who was obviously part of the 4 horsewomen with Becky, Bayley, and Charlotte.
Yeah.
So you could have that, and I'm sure Tony Khan, as bad of a booker that he is, and as bad of a promoter as he is, he's got to have made one of the biggest offers in women's wrestling history for Becky Lynch.
Oh, of course he have. I believe
he's got to.
If he brought Becky Lynch into AEW, that'd be insane. It's like when Adam Copeland went. Everyone was like, "Oh my lord, what the hell is this?" The thing is, they've got Seth Rollins, who's still in WWE.
That's one of the things that I think, again, WWE has in their favour is Seth being there. But then you look at other couples, you look at, for example, Rhea Ripley and Buddy Matthews. One's in AEW, one's in WWE. Zelina Vega and Malachi Black, one's in WWE, others in AEW. So there's precedent for that. But those that I just mentioned, and there's one or two others, the difference is Keith Lee and Mia Yim, they're married. Difference is those that have gone to AEW were released and fired.
Yeah.
Not kind of on their own accord.
Yeah, whereas Becky's left on her own terms.
Yes.
Obviously, she is a
rather than having been forced out, kind of thing.
Yeah. Who knows what could happen with Becky Lynch? We kind of all knew after WrestleMania that she was going to take a break. and I'm guessing, well, she clearly wants a break. She's told WWE that she's going on a break from all professional wrestling. It makes sense, but I don't know what could happen. Anything could happen at any point. It's professional wrestling for you.
In your opinion,
Yeah,
where do you see Becky Lynch going?
I think she'll stay with WWE. I think she'll have a couple of months off and she'll resign. And
because we know Seth has resigned. That
Yeah.
is public knowledge. He has resigned. So it's just a case of where does
obviously we had...
his wife want to go?
I think Becky will stay. I think they're both going to... They both probably want to stay on the road together. Obviously they've got a child. Who knows what could happen? I believe she's going to stay with WWE, and I hope and pray she doesn't go to AEW. Because if she does, then
Why do you hope and pray she doesn't?
I don't really like AEW, to be honest. It would. I mean, I just don't. I don't know. I just don't like Tony Khan. I don't like AEW. I mean, I don't
want to use the word hatred, but does your dislike for AEW mainly stem from Tony Khan?
Not all of it, but mostly. Yeah. AEW's not as entertaining. I don't get why it is. I can't. I try and watch AEW, like I sit there and watch YouTube. I don't find it as entertaining. Mainly, maybe it'll come over me one day, and I'll start watching it properly as much as I do WWE. I am trying to get more involved in it. I tried to watch some of Double or Nothing. I fell asleep.
Were you tired, or is that a symbolization of the show?
No, that was because I was very tired. Mainly because we recorded a podcast that day, and we was at other events with Newport City Radio and stuff, so...
I think Becky, apart from Adam Copeland, who we've just mentioned, Becky Lynch's contract to go this long and to actually expire is probably the major or the biggest contract to do this that I can remember in a good while, unless there's anyone else that I could think of.
I don't think so, no.
One of, if not the biggest star. Well, she's not the biggest star in women's wrestling. Rhea Ripley exists, but one of the biggest names in women's wrestling. I cannot think of anyone else that, or any other major name that's done this.
No.
Seth was close. I think Drew McIntyre's contract was close.
Yeah.
They re-signed.
Yeah, Drew's was close, which was announced that he re-signed by The Rock.
If Rhea, in a hypothetical situation, if Rhea stayed healthy and didn't get injured when she did, do you think Becky would have re-signed by now, and do you think she would have returned by now? Or we know Seth Rollins still hasn't been seen since WrestleMania, but I think that's mainly because of injuries.
Yeah, he's still out with his knee injury with his torn meniscus, so... I mean, it would make sense totally for Becky and Seth both to go on a break. One, for them to have a bit of family time with their daughter and stuff, go away on holiday and stuff like that. It would make total sense for that to happen. I think that's what everyone kind of knew anyway. But it's all up in the air at the minute. Obviously, Becky Lynch posted straight after Raw a photo of her leaving Raw, saying to be continued, and then I seen it on one of the WWE official pages, the man will return after Raw, so who knows what could happen. Who knows?
Yeah, she obviously main evented Raw this week, and was it a steel cage match against Liv Morgan for
the WWE Women's title, which was only 7 minutes.
Now, can I talk to you about the finish of that match?
Indeed.
Because we've seen that Dominic Mysterio travelled halfway around the world to Saudi Arabia just so that Liv Morgan would not get her hands on the title that she did get her hands on, and he tried to do exactly the same this week. But Liv retained. She was walking towards the back, and then Curtis.
Liv Morgan proceeded to kiss Dominic Mysterio, which...
Dominic Mysterio's the luckiest man in the world right now.
He's
involved in a love triangle with Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan.
Imagine having Rhea Ripley on one side and Liv Morgan on the other. Like, imagine being torn between that. Anyways, talking about contracts and other contracts running out, we have...
the current WWE Speed Champion.
Indeed
Twitter
we do.
Champion.
The Twitter Champion, Ricochet.
Yes.
His contract is set to expire this summer.
It is. There's so many contracts up this year. 2024 is 5 years, obviously, since AEW started. And when they did start, WWE wanted to tie down their main stars and big names to long-term contracts, i.e. Drew, Seth, Becky, Chad Gable, we'll come on to him in a little bit, Ricochet, people like that whose contracts are now coming to an end. If there's one person in the WWE roster that I do see go into AEW, it would be Ricochet.
Yeah, it would be Ricochet, I think.
Because we've seen some of the matches he's had on the independent scene. I call you to the Will Ospreay match, which is a really, really good match. That was about 5-10 years ago before Ricochet went to WWE, obviously. Do you see him making a switch? Because, again, as we mentioned with Becky just then, Becky's husband, Seth Rollins, is signed to WWE. Ricochet's partner, Samantha Irvin, is the ring announcer for WWE, and they're on the same show together, being Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
What do you see happening?
If any of the 3 or 4 names that we've got dotted down on our piece of paper, it's quite obvious that Ricochet would go. It wouldn't be Chad Gable, which we'll move on to in a moment's time. I don't think it would be Becky, so if it was going to be anyone, it would be Ricochet. Also, Ricochet at the moment is still the WWE Speed Champion, which was recently announced that they made the new title for it to be an exclusive for Twitter, or X, is however you want to call it nowadays. I could see it happening, but I don't think we could at the same time. Like, Samantha and Ricochet obviously travel together.
Yes.
With them being on the same show and stuff. Who knows? Do you think he will?
He will go to AEW.
Yeah, do you think he'll go to AEW?
There's a chance.
There's definitely a chance.
There's a chance he goes, his style and the way he wrestles and would suit AEW down to the ground. Probably a rematch with Will Ospreay, which I'm sure Will put on Twitter that he'd love to see Ricochet go over and for them to have a match. Again, there's every possibility.
Definitely.
There's every possibility. But I think that he is a Triple H guy. You look at his booking in NXT, where he won the North American title, and now on the main roster he's won I'm sure he's won the United States and Intercontinental title. He's won.
Yeah.
He's obviously the current Speed Champion, inaugural Speed Champion. So Triple H does see what's good in Ricochet.
Yeah, good potential.
Good potential, but would he be suited more in AEW? Potentially.
Potentially, yeah. Who knows?
But one thing that I think we know a little bit more about Chad Gable, his contract is set to expire next week.
Yeah. Which is interesting.
And that no deal has been reached as of now. Again, that's according to Fightful Select and Sean Ross Sapp. He's involved at the moment in, probably outside of Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, the biggest story in WWE at the moment with the Alpha Academy. Obviously, he turned heel on Sami Zayn. He's going after the Intercontinental title. And week in, week out, he's having a go at the Alpha Academy, Tozawa, Otis, and Maxine Dupree.
Yeah.
There's no way he leaves.
Oh, there's no way. If there was any possibility that he did, it would be one of the biggest upsets in wrestling history at the moment. Like, he can't leave. He's in one of the biggest angles other than the CM Punk and Drew storyline that we've got, and he's going on his singles run and stuff, which has been teased for quite a while that it was going to happen. I think we're going to get the split of Alpha Academy at some point.
Do you see... yeah, that's, I think, inevitable.
Yeah.
The way things are going. Unless they do a switch on us and Otis turns heel as well. But I think Chad Gable is such an underrated wrestler that, you know, you break him away from Alpha Academy and he just goes on a massive singles run, and
it makes 100% sense.
It does.
It makes so much sense for him to do it. So
it does.
I think.
Do you see a match between him and Otis maybe at SummerSlam, or? Because it seems if he's going to face anyone, it will be Otis, because they've been doing the Alpha Academy stuff for about, I want to say it's 4.5 years.
Do you think we could get Chad Gable versus Sami Zayn at the up and coming PLE Clash of the Castle?
Don't think so. I think there's also, as I say, SummerSlam. There's so many matches for Gable. You've got Otis, you've got Sami Zayn. As we mentioned last week in our review of King and Queen of the Ring, Gable wasn't pinned. It was Bronson Reed that was pinned.
Yeah.
So there's definitely more storyline to go there. Gable on Raw has said he's still after the Intercontinental Championship. For me, Gable should have been the one to dethrone Gunther.
It would make sense.
It would have made sense at the time, but now that we know what we know, and again, since Triple H came in, it's a case of letting things play out, and then you can kind of see the wider storyline.
Yeah.
At large.
That's what I like about Triple H. He's mixing it up. He's making every storyline entertaining. There's always twists and turns, surprises in the storylines, whereas when we was under the Vince McMahon era, everything was just boring. It was the same stuff over and over again. We had trilogies of the same matches.
Yeah, but they were good trilogies.
They were good. They were good trilogies.
Cody Rhodes against Seth Rollins, Edge against Seth Rollins, resulting in that phenomenal Hell in a Cell match out in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, they were all good. Don't get me wrong, but I do like the new era has made so much sense. It's so much better. It's brought a massive difference to WWE. It's up there with not the best, but one of the best eras that we've had in WWE in a good while. So, but yeah, I think Chad Gable will resign at some point.
His contract is set to expire
late next week.
Which came out a couple of days ago. So I want to say it's this week actually coming.
Yeah, so he'll probably resign. Could he resign on Monday?
Unless he has resigned already.
He probably has already re-signed, to be honest. I don't see him not re-signing. So, yeah, but...
Or... We know that sometimes these dirt sheets get things wrong and they're fed information on purpose that isn't actually true. Maybe he's re-signed already.
I think he has.
Maybe he has, because surely he won't be doing such a major story like this without knowing that he's actually gonna stay.
Yeah, because that would be just outrageous if he just did all the storyline and then just on Monday leaves and doesn't come back.
Yeah,
that would just be outrageous. So, but I think he's either definitely re-signed or he's going to re-sign.
There was a story going around in the week that the minimum base salary for a WWE main roster wrestler was $350,000 a year.
Yeah.
Just if you're someone sat in catering.
I know.
Which is equivalent to £274,000 a year.
That's mental.
Fancy learning to be a professional wrestler?
I mean, I have done some wrestling training for a couple of weeks. I mean, by the looks of it, I might as well do it again. Should we make a new tag team? Do you want to learn to be a professional wrestler as well, Luke?
The Are You Ready team.
Yeah, the Are You Ready tag team. Should we make our own belts as well? Get our own belts in the studio for when we record, and
we'll have them behind us on a nice plaque and a nice wall of different titles that we've won throughout our esteemed wrestling career.
The new Usos, go wait for the Usos reunion and go super kick the hell out of them.
Yeah, but that's absolutely mental for someone who can sit in catering for 52 weeks of the year and not do much.
And make over $350,000.
Make more than, I'd say, about 60-70% of people in the world.
Oh yeah,
per year.
That's like mental. It is mental, to be fair. How much money is in WWE? The amount of money that's in wrestling in general. It's millions and billions. I dread to think how much. I'd love to look at WWE's bank account, the bank accounts that they have, just to see how much money that is in the accounts at one time.
Well, I'm sure a company that has done that. This is one of the worst transitions I've ever done in my life. What are we talking about?
We're now talking about NXT and TNA with the crossover with that.
On Tuesday night on the WWE Network, I believe it's on now. It's on the WWE Network in the UK now only.
Yeah, because I was scrolling through WWE Network last night, and I seen that the whole NXT show was on WWE Network, and I was like, what? And then I was like, and then obviously then I realised then that it's exclusively on WWE Network for the UK.
For now, until I think everything goes over to Netflix next year. It was one of the best episodes of NXT I've seen
in a good while.
Just, so many noteworthy things happening, whether it was Sexy Red, whoever
she is.
She was. If you listen to anything other than this on Newport City Radio, I host an indie show on a Wednesday night. That's my taste in music, and I don't really dabble out of that too much, so when rappers come out, unless they're your major names like your Eminems and
Drake and
Snoop Dogg and people like that, and I don't know many, so I was a little bit lost on who she was.
I think she's like a rapper, like kind of like Cardi B and Nicki Minaj type thing.
But looking at a social media following, I could definitely see why WWE had her. I think she has about 15 million followers on Instagram, and
yeah, she's well known.
7 million on Twitter and things like that. So I can definitely see their reasoning behind that. And plus, NXT is very catered towards more of a younger audience.
Yeah.
And maybe Raw or SmackDown's obviously still keeping in with that developmental feel to things. But it wasn't just Sexy Red announcing that she's going to be the host of NXT Battleground next Sunday. We see that one of the main things on this week's NXT was that Roxanne Perez would find out who she would face.
Yeah.
At Battleground for the NXT Women's Championship. Last week, the general manager of NXT, Ava, spoke to both Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis, the general managers of Raw and SmackDown, respectively, to get their kind of
views and opinions.
Yeah, I think it was more their authority and to say that she could get this person in to face Roxanne Perez. It ended up being the real forbidden door was opened. The real forbidden door in professional wrestling. Never mind AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. The real forbidden door. TNA Knockouts champion Jordynne Grace showed up.
Yeah.
She was at the Royal Rumble earlier this year and put on a really, really good performance, and that performance must have stuck out in the minds of WWE officials who have now worked with TNA again.
Yeah.
To bring her in for another match in NXT.
Yeah, obviously it's noted on here that we're told that the door for NXT and TNA crossovers is very open, and it could happen multiple times again.
Plus, she is confirmed to be wrestling on this week's NXT.
Yeah.
So a TNA Knockouts champion will be and TNA belt will be defended on WWE.
Is the TNA belt being defended?
I believe it is. I want to say it is. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But anyway, a TNA Knockouts champion is
on.
wrestling on WWE TV, which is mad.
It is indeed.
Apparently, the door is open to go the other way as well.
Yeah.
So NXT talent maybe to go to TNA. And Jordan Grace announced for the upcoming TNA pay-per-view an open challenge, which is leading people to think that maybe Roxanne Perez will answer that, or a WWE women's wrestler will answer that.
Yeah.
Now, I can't remember if I mentioned on air on this podcast before or off air to someone that Mr. Joe Hendry.
Yes.
He obviously one of the modern Scottish wrestling. I want to call him an icon.
Yeah.
He's done a lot for wrestling and done a lot for music as well. He released his theme song, I believe, in Joe Hendry. I want to say it was about a month ago now.
Yeah.
And it made it into the official UK charts. I think it was the streaming charts.
Yeah.
I want to say it got to number 4, number 6 in 2 of the charts, which for a professional wrestler, that's really good.
That's crazy, outstanding, really.
Where are WWE holding their next pay-per-view?
Scotland.
Where's Joe Hendry from?
Scotland.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Indeed I am.
Does WWE believe?
I believe they do.
Will someone say his name?
Possibly.
Because we haven't seen WWE dabble much into the Forbidden Door, which Triple H just like to call the Forbidden Door. I can't remember what he said at the Royal Rumble press conference, but he said he didn't like the term Forbidden Door. He didn't want to use it.
Yeah.
Do you think we could see a Worlds Collide pay-per-view? We've seen them in the past when NXT is for NXT UK.
Yeah.
Could we see that? Would you be excited
Possibly.
for that?
Yeah, definitely. Be interesting.
Why would you be interested in that? What would get your juices flowing? What would get them tingling? What would get the hairs on your arms standing up?
I have no idea. Just surprises, I guess.
Under Vince, none of this would have been thought possible.
Definitely not.
But since he's gone, we've seen, obviously, this. We've seen Shinsuke Nakamura wrestle for Pro Wrestling Noah out in Japan against the Great Muta in his retirement tour. We've seen... Was it Shayna Baszler wrestled for a GCW Bloodsport in the week before WrestleMania?
Yeah.
We've seen Charlie Dempsey and a couple of others go to All Japan and wrestle for... I want to say it was in some kind of tournament over there. We know that Japanese wrestling... They like a tournament over there in Japan.
Yeah.
But... I know you don't watch much AEW. Do you see much TNA?
Little bits here and there.
Because I was going to say, if we were to sit here right now and fantasy book a crossover pay-per-view, what were some of the matches that you'd like to see?
Well, Jordan Grace would definitely be on that show. Who would she match in WWE-wise? Female wrestlers-wise?
Roxanne Perez, maybe, and have a bit of a trilogy?
Yeah. I think that could be lenient. I think that could happen. We're definitely going to get a lot of NXT and TNA crossovers, and it could even happen with Raw and SmackDown.
It could do. I don't think much of that. You might get one or two. Obviously, we see Raw and SmackDown wrestlers go to NXT and do some stuff there. You look at... I want to say on the World Battleground pay-per-view, you got Shayna Baszler on there, you got Gallows and Anderson on there, you've got, so you do have main roster representation down there. I think mainly we are going to see it be NXT wrestlers against
TNA wrestlers.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, any matches outside of Jordan Grace and Roxanne Perez that you'd like to see. Watch more wrestling, Curtis.
I do watch a lot of wrestling, alright. I do. I'm a very busy man.
You are indeed. I am indeed as well. One of the matches I very much look forward to seeing, and I think we could see, is we just mentioned about Joe Hendry.
Yeah.
Drew McIntyre? Or I think a little bit more realistic Gallus.
Yeah.
Maybe against Joe Coffey.
Yeah.
Because we see Gallus, obviously fellow Scottish wrestlers. I want to say they have history on the independents together up there in Scotland. That would be a phenomenal match. And just to see Joe Hendry in WWE is so popular in the wrestling community. I just think to have him in NXT and to do the things that he does in terms of like the songs and just the eyes he'd bring to NXT even more than already. He is a bit of a cult hero in British wrestling.
Yeah.
So whether he shows up at Clash or not, I don't know. Probably not. Because I think they're keeping this more with NXT rather than the main roster.
Yeah.
But you never know. We've seen John Grace show up at the Royal Rumble.
Who knows what could happen, I'm sure, over the next shows. Also, we've got Raw tomorrow. Then we've got SmackDown on Friday next week. Obviously, we'll have more matches announced throughout. Obviously, we're still 2 weeks away from the PLE. Well, 2 weeks as of yesterday. We're definitely going to get some. Obviously, we're going to get more matches. I think there's going to be about 6 matches, maybe 7 matches on the card.
I think we'll definitely see 6. I mean, at the moment, we've got 2 confirmed, being Piper Niven against Bayley and Drew McIntyre against Damian Priest.
I think we're going to get Cody versus AJ as well.
Yes. I want to say you could potentially get Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, maybe against Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Probably. Obviously,
being Scottish.
Jey Uso's on the poster as well, where he ties in with that. Who knows? Who knows? But I'm sure.
I'm just trying to think of other Scottish wrestlers on the main roster. Nikki Cross, but then she's tied up with the Uncle Howdy stuff, so maybe she can't appear.
Wow.
Or maybe she debuts or returns, or...
Well, Adam thinks, obviously, we'll get him to discuss it in depth next week, but he asked me, I've seen him yesterday, and he was like, oh, do you think Uncle Howdy could turn up? And I was like... No, I was like, they're not going to have it in Scotland.
I think no, for the reasons that we spoke of last week in terms of, was it Rainius?
Yeah, something like that.
Rainius, and his feasting day being the 17th of
June,
which is
Raw after
Clash.
Which hasn't been announced has it been announced where it is yet? I don't think it has.
We had this conversation last recording session.
I know.
Yes, it has been announced.
It has been announced. I was looking through WWE Network and the upcoming shows, and I don't know whether I've seen it or not.
It is in, hang on, Texas, Corpus Christi, Texas.
That does. I remember that conversation now.
Yes, I think we said exactly the same words now as we did last Sunday. Uncle Howdy, all signs are pointing towards June 17th. Obviously, we're still getting QR codes regularly, and they put something up on the WWE Network this morning, or not on the network, on the website this morning, which you pointed me to, and one of the entries, I want to say it was on last week's SmackDown, where you had about 15 different, not articles, but links on there. One of them, if you read the first, I want to say it was towards the bottom, if you read the first letter of every single line, it spelled out June 17th.
Yeah.
So if I had to put a date on when he comes back, it will be June 17th.
Yeah, I think
in my opinion, anyway.
I think that's what we're going to look towards, with all the letters, all the QR codes, or everything leaning towards June 17th.
Yeah.
Who knows?
who knows? Something that we do know, and we're going to take you down a nostalgia trip, a trip down memory lane for our last story of today. Curtis, one of the best factions of recent memory in WWE. I'm obviously referring to the Shield.
You are indeed.
10 years ago to this very day, Triple H enacted his Plan B, which was Seth Rollins turning on the Shield. You were 6 at the time.
I was indeed 6.
How much do you remember of this, apart from obviously we watched a little bit of a clip earlier of the turn actually happening? How much do you remember of the Shield breaking up back in 2014?
Oh, I would have been 7 then. Well, I would have been up 6, 7, I think. Well, there's obviously lots of history behind that. Obviously, how big the Shield was. One of the biggest, I'd say. Trio in WWE. Obviously, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, who individually all shipped away, kind of, and turned and went. And now they've all become top WWE, top superstars in their own things. Obviously, John Moxley was in AEW.
Current IWGP World Title holder.
Indeed.
And lover of blading through matches and covering rings in his own blood.
I dread to think his collection of many pieces of rings that he has of his blood on it.
Because I know WWE do this. I'm not sure if AEW do, but for certain events at the end, they kind of cut up the ring that was used.
Yeah, I think Rhea Ripley's.
Or the ring map that was used, and then they sell it and it's authentic. I'd love to see one from John Moxley's match, from a John Moxley match even.
Oh yeah, they could make loads.
Yeah.
They could make loads of the amount of blood he loses throughout his matches.
Just hope that blood's clean. Who knows where that blood's been?
God knows.
So yeah, Shield breaking up 10 years ago today. Each one of them has gone on to do
amazing things in there.
Arguably amazing things.
Yeah.
Since I know all 3 of them are WWE champions or former WWE champions, Roman Reigns has gone on to be the face of not just WWE but wrestling, the saviour of wrestling. People call him that heel turn in 2020 with the Tribal Chief when WWE seemed to be on a real downward spiral.
Yeah.
The booking was awful. They were in the pandemic. So much questions around them and whatnot. And yeah, Seth Rollins, first ever World Heavyweight title holder, had phenomenal matches with the Who's Who on that roster. Yeah, married to Becky Lynch, of course. And then John Moxley, former WWE champion, as I say, had a good match at WrestleMania against Brock Lesnar. Remember a couple of years ago. Former 3-time AEW champion.
Believe so.
Yes, because he had it after when CM Punk got injured. He won it. And then he won the interim belt again after CM Punk got suspended following Brawl out in Chicago. And then he lost it to, obviously, MJF, who we mentioned at the top of this podcast. As well as that, he's the current IWGP title holder. He left WWE. Actually, we spoke of the... Let's kind of tie this podcast up here. We spoke about Becky Lynch and being one of the biggest names in recent memory to leave WWE on their own accord. Do you put John Moxley / Dean Ambrose up there? Or do you think Becky Lynch is in a different stratosphere to where Dean Ambrose is / was John Moxley?
Yeah, no. He's definitely up there. 100% he's definitely up there. Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't say it was bigger than the Becky Lynch thing that we've got going on right now. Maybe on the same level. Obviously, Becky Lynch is a female wrestler. Dean Ambrose is a male wrestler, but they've all had massive storylines and massive individual runs in WWE. Like, obviously, Roman and Seth stayed with WWE. Dean was the only one to leave WWE.
Do you think he'll ever return, or do you think he'll only return to be inducted into the Hall of Fame as the Shield?
I think so. I think he'll only come back to be inducted into the Hall of Fame with the Shield. Maybe he might be there if Roman ever gets inducted to the Hall of Fame. Maybe Seth. Who knows? It's professional wrestling. Anything can happen.
They induct each other, kind of thing.
Yeah, they kind of all induct each other, yeah.
Do you see Ambrose going into the Hall of Fame on his own?
Yeah, no. But if any of the three of them are going to go into the Hall of Fame first, it's going to be Roman, and then it'll probably go Seth.
Yes. Roman Reigns could probably go into the Hall of Fame 3 times over.
Probably.
Shield, Bloodline, and himself.
Yeah, literally.
Anyway, Curtis.
Yes.
Thank you very much for another fantastic edition of the Are You Ready podcast.
As always.
Are you looking forward to the mighty Clash at the Castle?
Indeed I am, but are you ready?
I am ready. Is Adam ready? We'll find out next week if Adam is ready for Clash at the Castle. Thank you very much for listening. If you missed our announcement at the start of the show, we will be doing our live reactions to the premium live event on the 15th of June, live on Newport City Radio. Time to be confirmed. Keep an eye on our social medias for that one. And yeah, thank you very much for listening to another edition of the Are You Ready Wrestling podcast.